Welcome back to another episode of Square State Sandlot Podcast, and I am joined by my great friend, Logan Ellerbeck. Great to have you again, Logan.
Hey, buddy.
We got lots of things to talk about. We are very excited for the border war that kicks off in just about 2 hours, and that is the annual game between Wyoming and Colorado State. They are playing for the bronze boot. And
that's going to be Cowboys just ramming it down the Rams' fucking throat all game. That's what that's going to be.
I was hoping that was your projection there. I know Wyoming is favored. I think they're 8.5 point favorites at this point in the line. Have you been watching much Wyoming this year?
Actually, I watch every week. That's Grandma's big thing on Saturdays. She's a huge fan, and I tell her that she's their lucky charm. So yeah, I've been watching. And Bowles has a phenomenal program. Placed out D, hammer the rock, win games.
Well, it wasn't looking too good at the start of the season, but I think he has found a few answers in DQ James that has been a breakout. I mean, last I checked, he was averaging 12 yards per carry in his limited playing time. And then they had McNeely at the start of the season. He had that hand injury. So, I mean, it was tough sledding at the beginning of the year. They weren't playing great defense. And, I mean, some of that's a symptom of they have a really young team this year. But some of it's also, Craig Bowles' offense is very one-dimensional, and if it's not working, you're not going to win games. So
you can say the same thing about Shanahan in the NFL, though. Shanahan's 2-28 if they're behind in the fourth quarter. That's you're a product of your own creation. If it's working, it's good fundamental football.
Yeah, I mean, burns a lot of clock, keeps the other team off the field. So as long as you can play defense and get some first downs, it works. But
we're not always going to have a Josh Allen fall into our lap. That's just reality.
That was the frustrating thing for me is even when he did have Josh Allen, they were still 60th ranked offense in the NFL or in the college football. So it takes a generational talent for him to even commit to throwing the football at all, but it's fine. I did want to say that they did become bowl eligible with their win, not last week, but the week before against Hawaii.
We were on a bye last week.
Yep, last week they had the bye. It's not looking like they'll have a chance to play for the conference championship unless Boise State or I can't remember the other team they have to have two teams in front of them lose, and it doesn't look like they're probably going to. So
I think they need two losses, don't they?
I think just
they
one.
They need both of them to lose in order to make it to the championship.
Yeah, Boise State, they will play them, so they have to beat them, plus they have to have Boise State lose to another team. So
that's what
it's not looking promising, but at least they are building something here, I think. Peasley looks like he's a competent quarterback at least. Levi Williams looked pretty good last year for them, and obviously he left for Utah State.
Yeah, that's the hard thing. It's hard to build a program now because the transfer portal's so open. So it's hard to say they're building a culture right now.
Well,
because if they have any talent, they're just going to leave. Why would you stay in Laramie, Wyoming?
Because it's beautiful.
It is beautiful, but it's cold.
It is cold. I'll give you that. And I can't believe you're outside doing this. It's crazy.
It's 44 degrees outside today. It's like summer out here, man.
Dude, it's warmer there than it is here then, because I'm pretty sure it's only 39 here.
We'll take it. Tell you what, global warming sure is nice in this soon-to-be oceanfront property.
Oceanfront in Wyoming, that'd be beautiful. Okay, so back to the game. I did want to mention that Titus Wen, last I heard, which was, I believe, Thursday, they said he's trending towards being available for this game. He's obviously their bell cow running back. And then DQ James, he and Peasley, I think they should factor in to the running game heavily.
Yeah, it's constant subbing offense, so yeah. They're all going to get probably 10 touches at least.
Yeah, that's the thing that scares me about Peasley is he's very slight of frame, and every time he does one of those rollouts and gets hit hard, I'm just like, oh boy. When you're a big body quarterback like Josh Allen and can run the way that he can, it doesn't. Well, I mean, it still scares me when he takes hits in the NFL, but not as much as seeing Peasley.
He's literally their run offense in the number one ranked fucking offense right now. He's a big enough guy, but yeah, you put a slight frame like you out there, you're just kind of asking for fucking destruction.
Yes. So I'm hoping that they can get a little more balance on the offensive side because
they're not going to pass. They're not going to pass.
But hear me out. Whelan in the last game, I think he went 6 for 94 yards receiving. Cobbs he's kind of been disappointing this year. I don't know that it's necessarily his fault. It's just a product of him not getting many targets.
Well, when you only throw the ball 18 times in a game,
Yeah. He looks like a capable wide receiver. And then you have the tight ends in Christensen and Welch. Both of those guys are stud receivers. I feel like there's plenty of room to grow with Peasley in that passing game. And I think they're going to need it against a team like Boise State. So I hope that they can start to develop that against a struggling Colorado State team. What do you think?
Colorado? The Colorado State Rams?
Colorado State.
Well, I honestly think this game is just going to be Bowles locking in his game plan as usual. They're not going to try and develop some more play action passes. They're not going to try to get their quarterback hot. They're going to go to Boise with the expectation that they're going to hammer the rock, play decent defense. They did the same thing when they went to the Aggies. Yeah. They didn't change their game plan for the Aggies at all, and they lost for it.
I mean, the Aggies have not been anywhere near what they were last year, especially.
They were ranked 19th when we played them.
I think they've tried 3 different quarterbacks, and all 3 of those quarterbacks played in the Wyoming game and didn't do anything. So, I think the defense has definitely been building. They've got Easton Gibbs. He's the next Chad Muma, the next Logan Wilson. He's looking like a really good linebacker from the state of Wyoming.
In my opinion, though, like, football's all about culture. So, yeah, settling in and getting comfortable with the guys around you, trusting your teammates. Like, I used to buy into, like, having an Aaron Rodgers was the key to success. And, yeah, it'll get you to the playoffs, but it ain't ever going to win you a Super Bowl, period. Like, culture's what matters. And I think the defense is really settling into what they are as a defense. They have, they have an identity now.
Yeah, so, front, I mean, they've built this team essentially how you want to, and that's up front in the trenches on both sides of the football. And like I said, both sides of the football is young, but that group on the offensive line and that group on the defensive line have really started to gel together.
Are they returning all 9? Or all 9?
I think all 11 starters or 10 of the 11, because Muma left in the draft, but I think 10 of the 11 on the defense all returned, and I think they still have years of eligibility left on all of them. So
we could see a little bit of a Wyoming run then.
Well, and you have Keelan Cox that transferred from Alabama. He is going to miss the rest of the season. I think I can't remember if he had a knee or a hip injury, but he's coming back next year, and he's going to be a tank on that defensive line as well. So, yeah, like I said, I think things are trending well. I know at the beginning of the year we were pretty sour with some of the games and how they lost them, but I will give Bull some credit. I mean, he kept banging his head up against the wall, and it finally broke through. And sometimes that's all it takes. But
he's been that way like since he got here, though. What was it? 2000 and was it? 10
I think
years
this is
ago?
his 6th year,
6 years.
I don't know, something like that.
He's been with us for a fucking while, though. But he's always been that way. He just kind of bangs his head against the wall, and we occasionally fall into a winning season. We go to a bowl, and the sad thing about college football, though, like, who gives a shit about them going to the fucking Potato Bowl?
Yeah.
Who cares about that game?
Well, I have heard that the projected bowl, and obviously this is still way too early to be talking about this because we still have, I think, 3 weeks left of football. But the latest projection I saw was them going to, I believe it was the Las Vegas Bowl against BYU. So that would be a rematch of the game earlier this season.
We got our asses kicked by BYU, though.
Yes, but they were also playing a lot better at the beginning of the season, and we were not. So I think it would be a pretty good matchup. And if it's in the Las Vegas Bowl, that would be playing in Allegiant Stadium and not very far from me. So I really hope it turns out that way.
You'd be down there with a bunch of other Wyoming fans being able to, chant FU BYU.
Well, I think it would be pretty close to a 50-50 split because Provo's pretty close to Vegas. I think it's like it's probably a 5-hour drive. But Wyoming also travels really well. They're fans, so.
Well, just for like especially the Vegas Bowl.
Yeah.
I know Leif's gone to the last 2 times that we've been to the Vegas Bowl.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it if that does end up shaking out that way. So,
well, like you said, still 3 weeks of football left, and Wyoming has 2 games that they could definitely fuck it up on. Because even though they're projected 9-point favorites, essentially, it's still a rivalry game.
Yep. And that's exactly where to put my notes. It is a rivalry game, so I don't expect a blowout, but I still think Wyoming will cover. I think I have them winning by 10. I don't know. I obviously could see it being closer, but I think they're a better team than Colorado State on paper. So
absolutely, but you make a couple mistakes early. It's really hard to run your way when you're running from behind. Yep. So
very hard to come back from behind when you're run first offense. So
Shanahan's proof of that.
Yep.
Speaking of Shanahan, he picked up a major weapon since we talked last.
Yeah, what did you think about that trade?
Love it. Absolutely love it. I've said for a while, you don't pay quarterback money to a fucking running back. That was the stupidest contract I've ever seen them pick up. I don't care how good CMC is. Look at what Foreman's done the last 3 weeks. Yep. He's broken 100 yards the last 3 weeks. If you have a good offensive line, I could fucking run for 100 yards behind. You're
going to have someone pushing you from behind too?
Well, yeah, probably.
Fullback, maybe?
I'll need that oxygen fucking strapped on immediately after. But, there was no reason to pay CMC the way they did. There just wasn't. He's a generational talent, sure, but he's 26. His career's over in 2 years max.
Yeah.
Great way to relieve the cap space. We got an entire draft. We got a whole nother team's draft of picks coming in.
Yeah, what did you get? Move. 2 seconds, 2/3, and a fourth or something like that?
2 seconds, 2/3, and a fourth. Yeah. And then I think a conditional fifth based on performance.
So I like this trade for both teams because at this point in his career and this point in the contract, I think he has no more guaranteed money left after this season. So you would think San Francisco is probably going to restructure that contract so it gives him more guaranteed money up front, but maybe lessens the blow on the salary cap. So,
or they'll go cash over cap and just fucking pay him $1 billion like every team's doing nowadays.
I don't think they're going to give him a raise.
He doesn't deserve it. He's played fucking.
You saw how they used him, right, in that game?
Yeah, I watched him be the first fucking running back to have a passing, catching, and a fucking rushing touchdown in one game. 2 weeks after leaving Carolina, I saw it, and I think it was
wasn't it since Marshall Faulk?
Yeah, Marshall Faulk was the last one in 2003, I think.
Yeah, so I think he's a generational talent, like you said, and the only thing I think he has on his side is he can play slot wide receiver if he wants to. So
you've been saying that for years now, and I know he's not going to make the move.
It's not his plan, but if the alternative is being out of the league or moving to slot wide receiver because it's less wear and tear on your body, I guarantee he's going to try to extend his career rather than
if he's smart,
taking the blows at every single play.
Being back in the Bay Area has to feel so fucking good for him, though. I'm happy for him. It was a great move all around. I talk shit, but he was a fun talent to watch on Carolina's roster. He really was.
Yeah.
And
the only problem is obviously his injury history, but
exactly.
When he's taken 60% of your touches, that's going to lead to some injuries, and he's not going to have that in San Francisco. No. Unless Shanahan falls in love with him touching the ball and starts to go crazy with it. But
I'm sure Shanahan's already in love with CMC touching his balls. I'm sure he's loving it. I gotta say, the one thing I really didn't like around CMC on Carolina was, again, culture's what wins you games. But Cam Newton was a good quarterback, but he wasn't a generational talent. The reason Carolina was so successful under his tutelage was he created a culture. They were fucking dabbing after every play. He was handing out footballs after every touchdown. There was excitement when he stepped on the field. That culture is what wins. And when you try to build it around a fucking 5'9" white guy from fucking Colorado, you just don't have that energy you need.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely is a reserve player, so
he is. He's
not going to be the
you couldn't
rah-rah
build
guy.
your culture around Kuechly. You could. I mean, our defensive culture was built around Kuechly, but it was about being prepared, more prepared.
I was going to ask you about him.
I hope he comes back for Carolina's coaching staff. I pray.
There was a meme I saw on Facebook today, and it said, "I'm sure you saw the whole Jeff Saturday crap in Indianapolis."
Oh God, yeah.
So it said, "If Jeff Saturday can coach, then I want to see this." And it was a picture of Kuechly from his days with Carolina when he was injured, and he was, helping the defensive coordinator
on the staff,
call plays and all that. So
we had him.
Saying, got to get him in.
We had him in the building for the last 2.5 years. He left at the start of this season. He was on our scouting department.
Yeah, and he needs to be on the sideline because he's a very cerebral player, knows plays before they're happening, and I think he could be a great asset.
He will be, if it's not Steve Smith, he'll be one of the first Carolina Panthers that's an actual Carolina Panther throughout their career to make it to the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Although Smitty did get fucking snubbed. I don't know if you saw it or not. He was on the ballot for Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah.
And he got snubbed. But, I agree. Kuechly on the sideline would be just an excellent fit. I mean,
yeah.
And the thing is, though, we have the second richest owner in the league who's from Pittsburgh, who bought a football team to fucking, it's kind of like buying a Corvette for, it's to him, it's a money thing. So I don't know how much he cares about the culture of the Carolina Panthers. They did 2 years ago, they did the Ring of Honor. They finally had a Ring of Honor. They brought in Delhomme, Smitty, Jordan, and Wesley Walls. And then this year they didn't bring in anybody. And it's like, why start that and not actually commit to it? Because Hurney had a great idea. You want to honor that. You want to build that culture. And it just doesn't seem to be there in Carolina, which is the reason they're struggling this season.
Yeah.
The reason they are a shitty team, because they are stacked with talent. They have an amazing offensive line. They have an explosive defense.
I want to see Tim Biakabatuka added to that just so people can remember that name.
God, yeah, that's a hard name to forget. Moose and Muhammad should be in there.
Moose.
How do you not have Moose in there? How do you not have fucking Thomas Davis in there? How do you not have some of Mark Fields?
They need to get some of those guys. But no,
Sam Mills. They don't even have Sam Mills in the goddamn Ring of Honor of their own field, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Are you fucking kidding me? You hammer a drum every single home game because of Sam Mills, and you don't have him represented in your stadium.
That's embarrassing, but
it really is. That was.
Go ahead.
It's sad. Going to the Broncos stadium and looking at the names that they have wrapping their arena kind of gives you a sense of their history. It's a cool thing as a fan.
I'd rather not go to that stadium, though.
If we had a choice of going to no games or going to the 2 Broncos games we did go to as kids, Broncos were a fair trade-off.
Yeah, but I was always cheering for the other team, whoever it was.
Well, I think we cheered for the Chargers and the Jets, so that says a lot.
Yeah. Well, that was back when the Chargers had LT, so that was fun.
That was LT's 2,000-yard season, too.
Yeah, but he didn't do much in that game.
Well, yeah, that's because we were there.
Back to your Panthers. A lot has happened. Obviously, we talked about the Christian McCaffrey trade. They also traded Robbie Anderson. They also fired their head coach.
Say that correctly. They got rid of a cancer in Robbie Anderson.
Yeah.
His little bitch temper tantrum. Oh, my God.
Screaming at the wide receiver coach.
And then sitting next to the water coolers like a 3-year-old. It's like your kid walking out front and sitting on the front stoop and fucking pouting. I was so happy to see him gone.
Yeah, I feel like they should have done that at the beginning of the season when he complained I guess not the beginning, but when he started complaining about, No, he was complaining about when they made a move for Baker.
So
that was training camp. Yeah. So I feel like they should have made that move at that point.
It should have been obvious that he's the answer, because wide receiver is, God, what a cancerous position. And if you're fucking Megatron, you can be that way. But if you're Robbie Anderson and you catch he caught 54 passes last year or something like that. He didn't do shit. He had no reason to be that arrogant. See ya. And then, they got rid of Rule. They got rid of their OC. They got rid of a lot of their fucking lower staff as well.
Yep. How do you feel about Steve Wilkes?
I feel like I like Carolina does a weekly check-in where they sit in on a meeting, and he's a coach that is, I like him. I feel like he would be a good stay. Like, I hope he's not just interim, but we know from history, odds of him actually holding the job are pretty low.
Yeah, most interims don't get to stick around, but I feel like he is due for another opportunity at head coach. His first one.
He's doing well too.
Yeah, no, he's one of those guys that the guys rally behind because they respect him, and he's not going to be the screaming type. He's one of the more reserved coaches, but I feel like he's
Rivera
always
was
been
the same way.
Yeah, he was on Rivera's staff, right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
I believe he was DB coach back then, though. He wasn't a coordinator.
Yeah, so I would love to see him get this opportunity and take it. Especially, I mean, let's talk about the Thursday night game just from 2 days ago.
So, as you know, because you were giving me updates, I go out to dinner every Thursday with my uncle. And it's just exciting to be able to, like, while I was at dinner, I don't pull out my phone when I'm with others because I think it's rude. But, like, I knew if I were to pull out my phone, Carolina was going to be leading that game. And I felt that way last week when we played the Bengals. Like, they feel like they're in a position. I mean, the Bengals game was debauchery. Like, what a shit show that was. 35 points in the first fucking half. But
yeah,
I feel like with the coaching staff, they're getting a culture going behind it. They're a team that can perform now. The Thursday night game was exciting though. Like Foreman hitting his third 100-yard game in a row.
Yep. Just
shows, okay, this kid's actually got something. And he runs like he's angry at the grass, to quote Ted Lasso. He's a hell of a runner. I thought it was an exciting game. I didn't like that they gave up a touchdown at the end to fucking bring it within 10 because I feel like that didn't give them the credit they deserved. The scoreboard didn't reflect just how well they actually played. I went back and watched the game, and like when you know the outcome, it's a little different, but I like watching the recaps, and yeah, they looked good.
Yeah. Well, and the DJ Moore still had a couple good catches, even though they were basically doubling him the whole game and daring them to throw it to anyone else. That LaVisca Chanel,
their backup running back, yeah. That 43-yard scamper he had was that was a hell of a play. He should have been down 13 yards into that run, and he turned it into a touchdown.
Yeah. So I saw a lot of things to be excited about. Like I said, your defense looked really good.
I told you that going in. I literally told you before the game started. I'm like, Carolina's defense full of studs. You're like, I don't know. They kind of suck. Fuck them. And
I didn't say that.
Buffalo literally offered us a first, a third, and a fourth for Burns. He's one of the best linebackers for rushing the quarterback right now.
I can't remember who else. There was another team that tried to get Burns from you guys. Offered a first. Maybe it was 2 firsts.
It might have been 2 firsts. And I think it was it. No, it wasn't Seattle, was it?
I can't remember who it was, but someone offered you guys and you said no.
We said no to both deals or both offers. So, if Carolina was punting it on the season completely, they would have got rid of Burns. But that would have been.
You can't punt. I mean, where you guys are at right now, you're what, 1 game out of first place because the division's so bad?
I know.
I don't know, man.
We could sneak into the playoffs easily.
That's my question for you: do you see a scenario where that could happen?
Absolutely. Tom Brady is not Tom Brady this season, and to no fault of his own. Like, how the fuck do you go through a divorce with 3 fucking kids? You've been married for 12 years and have the ability to focus on a playbook and a fucking game plan for the week.
Yeah.
Like, Tom Brady's Tom Brady, but unfortunately, life circumstances are making it so he's playing like a human this year. So the Bucs aren't as, intimidating as they could have been. New Orleans is not the team that everybody thought they were going to be this season.
Yep.
And Atlanta's, we just beat Atlanta easily. Made them look foolish. Mariota looked like he was fucking still playing for Tennessee.
Oh, man, that was bad. And the thing is, I don't think he's got much of a leash just because they have Ritter behind him that, they're going to want to see what they have in him. And it's no fault to Mariota because he's actually played pretty well this season.
Yes. I told you he would last time I was on. I said I thought he would play well. But yeah, having a leash on him does not help.
Well, you still have to wonder. I don't know if you saw that play where he landed on his back.
I did.
And it got pick six. Yeah.
To his credit, though, from his ass, he threw that ball fucking 40 yards.
Yeah. I don't know what he was thinking. Like, he lucked out so much that went, or that he touched down before that released. Because, that would have been a pick six right there.
I think he was concerned about the fumble. I think that's why he hucked it like that. If you watch the play back, I think he was concerned about hitting the ground with the ball.
Just crazy. But
it was an interesting play. But honestly, like, when you look at that play in particular, if they didn't have him you're not allowed to run. You're a passer first. When you take that away from a quarterback that knows how to win with his legs or with his arm, you're going to get an average season.
Yeah. But, I mean, to defend them in some regard, when he ran with the Raiders, literally 50% of the plays he ran on, he would get hurt. So it's tough to say, just go ahead and see what happens because you've seen his hamstrings have just blown out on him after one run. And, it's crazy. But
Tim Tebow can make a conference playoff game with letting him play how he knows how to play.
Yeah.
That's what I find so unfortunate. You want to protect these guys, but these guys know what they're getting into. They were just as likely to hurt themselves in college.
Yep.
Let them go out and play how they know how to play to win. Can you game plan for it? Fuck no. But you couldn't game plan for Michael Vick running at fucking 72 yards on a random play on you either.
No.
I think Mariota has not ever actually had an opportunity to be a successful quarterback in the NFL, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've seen what he's done so far this season. Like I said, it's not been, lighting the world on fire or anything, but he's kept them competitive in every single game. So
winning games. Carolina should have beat the Falcons twice. Game. PJ Walker having the longest pass of the season. Did you see that play to DJ Moore?
Absolutely beautiful. I don't know how they let DJ get behind him, but
oh my god, because nobody thought they were gonna throw it 70 fucking yards.
Yeah,
dude, that got me so excited for Walker though. He's
got arm talent for days.
He does, but he's not accurate. He should have had at least 2 interceptions against Atlanta. Yeah, he's not playing to manage the game well, but the kid is young, so that's a plus.
It's tough. It's tough to throw the ball in when it's raining the way it was in that game. And then you had, the wind and everything else. So they very easily could have been picked, but at the same time, if it's not raining, they probably would have been picked, but he probably wouldn't have thrown it like that if it was not. So
in theory, he threw it into double coverage in 5 yards deep in the end zone on a fucking post route. That's not the smartest way to play with the ball,
I'm talking about the one where it went through the linebacker's hands.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. He's not gonna throw it low like that because it slipped out of his hands. Yeah, I agree. And he's got legs too. The kid, I have a lot of excitement for him. I genuinely am excited for where Carolina's at right now.
It's crazy because they picked him up out of the the AAF? Was that what he was playing in?
Wasn't it the
I thought it was that league that shut down.
The spring league, right?
Wasn't it AAF?
I think that. I can't remember what the fuck it was called, but we're talking about the same thing. It wasn't the fucking short man, fans call the plays league.
No, not fan controlled football. It was I think it was the AAF, but anyway, they picked him up off the scrap heap essentially, and he looks like he may be an answer at quarterback going forward. Which,
fuck, dude, how did Baker?
All it took was them replacing their starting quarterback, firing their coach, and then replacing their backup quarterback that they promoted to starter before they have one. But
you get there how you get there. But what a shit show that was! How did Baker fuck that up, dude? I feel so bad for that guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
He legitimately was good with the Browns. I was so excited for him.
Well, and I think some of it's probably, new playbook, new coach, all that fun stuff. It's tough to
he's
in
such
6 games solve that. But
he's such a good fucking locker room guy. Like, I don't know if you saw or not, but after the game, he literally headbutted PJ Walker with no helmet on. Like,
yeah,
the guy loves football.
Everyone was saying he's so miserable there. He's just trying to get on the concussion list.
Oh, fuck that shit. He was genuinely excited. Like, I want that back. I want that. I miss, like, we saw what happened to Cam Newton after a shoulder injury, but even before that, like, I miss that electric football that he brought more than I miss anything else.
Well,
Like, it sucked when he could be. He definitely could be. There's something about, when we cut ties with Smitty, I was so fucking sad, but it was the best thing they could have done for Carolina because it gave the reins to Cam. Yep. Hopefully we can see something like that happen with Walker as well.
Yeah.
With cutting ties with CMC.
When they let go of Rule, I mean, it looked like the season was over at that point. I think everyone was kind of ready to turn the page on Carolina. And these last, even after CMC, everyone was like, oh, it's going to be a fire sale. They're getting rid of everyone so they can start building for the draft. Yeah. And I've seen more in these last 2 weeks than I've seen from them the entire rest of the season. So it is something to look forward to. Yeah, 3 weeks, sorry. But
I think getting rid of Rule was a good choice. I don't know what happened, but I think it's just another thing where college coach culture, you have control over those guys' lives.
Yep.
So some coaches can't make that adjustment. Yeah. I don't think he ever had the respect of that locker room, though, because there's no culture at Carolina.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's always going to be so much different when you are controlling a locker room of men versus boys.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I mean, essentially to those kids, and not so much now with the transfer portal stuff, but the college coaches essentially control when they're getting on the field and everything. I mean,
every aspect of their lives is controlled. They're told when they're working out. They're told what classes they're taking. Like, everything in college is different.
Yep. So I'm sure he'll be a successful college coach again. But
where do you think he lands if you were to take a stab at it? What college do you think picks him up?
I guess it depends, because I've heard he's going to take a year off. So if obviously he doesn't get back in it right now, that changes things. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him at like Nebraska.
Oh God, that's gross.
I mean, he's gonna be in demand no matter where he wants to go. So,
well, yeah, I mean, you can't really question what he's gonna bring in the college game at all.
Yeah.
Hold on, I gotta grab my chair. You know what else I wanted to talk about with the division, the NFC South, is what happens with Tom Brady after this year, do you think? Do you think he decides he's going to play another?
I've seen all kinds of theories, and obviously if, what happened last year where he retired and comes back and then seems like ruined his relationship with his wife.
His marriage was probably on the rocks well before that. I bet he came back for the distraction.
Yeah. And I don't know.
And he didn't want to give up that fucking healthy Fox check he's going to get at $340 million.
Yeah. It's tough to speculate, but I would say I think this is his last year on that contract, so he will be a free agent if I'm not mistaken. So if he wants to come back, I mean, it seems like a perfect situation where he can, pick the perfect situation for him. And I think he's still probably a top 10 quarterback in this league. So
does this year taint his legacy at all, do you think?
No, because I still think, as much as I hope it's you guys that represent the NFC South, I still think they're going to be the team that represents the South in the playoffs. So, I mean, what bad is that, adding another playoff run to your resume? Obviously, it's not how you would have liked to get it done. But
he's supposed to be in the Super Bowl this year if he follows history. Yeah, because he's gone Super Bowl, not Super Bowl every year his entire career. So,
well, and they have the talent. So it's just been baffling to me seeing how this season has unfolded for them. So it wouldn't surprise me if they get in the playoffs at like 9-8 and then go on a run and end up in the NFC Championship team or something, or game or something like that. But no, I really think there's been plenty of rumors him trying to get Gronk to come back to the Bucks. So I mean, maybe that's a potential boost that they'll get. I don't know, but there's been a lot of rumors linking him to Vegas again with the out in Derek Carr's contract, and obviously we have the dumbass Josh McDaniels. So
why did they hire McDaniel? Like, what a stupid hiring.
I think Ziegler impressed Mark Davis enough that he wanted him, and that was Ziegler's preferred coach because, you know, they go back so far. And he thought he would have a much better go this second time around.
That's another interim coach that they should have held on to. Like, that's another example of
Bisaccia for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the argument for him was he was loyal to his guys, and he told Mark Davis in his interview, if I come back, I want Mayock back with me, and I want all my coordinators back and everything. And I think that's why he didn't get the job, honestly.
Well, NFL, so it's all about, you know, star talent as well, you know, and landing a big name like McDaniels, even though he was a complete failure in fucking Denver.
Yep.
I think Mark Davis probably, because let's face it, if you have a coach that comes in and makes the playoffs and he wants to keep his staff, that makes perfect sense when you think about it. Like, why wouldn't you want to keep your OC and your fucking coordinators on staff?
Well, I understand getting rid of both coordinators because the Raiders haven't had a good defense in, I don't know, since 2009, I think was the last time they had a top 10 defense. It's been so long.
Was it that long ago?
Oh, it's been forever.
Who was on that defense?
I think it was more a factor that our offense was so bad that teams would just run the ball, and so the defense wasn't out there at all.
Because I can't even think of who would have been on that 2009 roster. Sapp would have been the forefront of it.
It was. I mean, they had some decent players. Rob Ryan. No, not Rob. Yeah, was he the coach of the
Rex
Jets?
Ryan's brother?
Rex. Yeah, Rex is the coach of the Jets. Rob Ryan, his brother, was our defensive coordinator the last time we had a good defense, and that's been forever ago. So you go ahead and keep talking about my Raiders. I'm going to pull up a quick stat here and tell you exactly why Bisaccia didn't get the job. Just got to find the tweet here. One second.
Again, though, like, to run away from cultures, let's face it, did Cincinnati have a Super Bowl caliber fucking roster last year? No. How did they make the Super Bowl then? Because Joe fucking Moxie.
Yeah, Joseph Burrow.
Like, he came out with some fucking grit. He's fucking throwing on, you know, fur jackets and gold chains, and he's creating culture.
Well, and the funny thing is, everyone was, you know, saying, here's the example of you can get to the playoffs and go to the Super Bowl without having an offensive line. It's like, no, you still want to protect your quarterback, okay?
Yeah, you still want an indoor practice facility for your guys to practice in. Like, those things still matter. But
okay.
Again, go ahead. I want to hear this stat.
Okay. So this is the reason why I think Bisaccia didn't get the job, and that is first-round picks under John Gruden / Mike Mayock. Colton Miller, he is our left tackle of the future. And then you have Cleveland Farrell, fifth-year option declined, barely plays. Jonathan Abram just got cut. Josh Jacobs, fifth-year option declined. Obviously, he's been a stud this season and stayed healthy. Then you had Henry Ruggs, which I don't fault Mayock for. I mean, obviously, you don't foresee him killing a young lady and going to prison.
No, that's hard to predict.
But Damon Arnett had character issues. He's now cut and out of the league. And then you have Alex Leatherwood, who also got cut earlier this season. So out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 first-round picks, 2 are still on the team. Only one of them is good. And that's why I think, even though John Gruden was making those picks, I think Mike Mayock was the fall guy for Gruden in that GM role. And I think that's why Bisaccia didn't get the job, because if he came back, that meant he wanted Mike Mayock to be the GM with him. So,
well, you got to respect a guy that's loyal like that.
Oh, for sure. And every single player. Well, I don't want to say every single player. I'm sure.
How much of their later round talent is still on the roster though? Because they drafted Renfrow.
Yep, they drafted Renfrow. Waller. They drafted Nate Hobbs in the 5th round. He's Waller. A stud at cornerback. Well, they got him off the Ravens practice squad.
Oh, I thought they drafted him.
No.
He's not a homegrown talent?
Well, essentially. I mean, they got him off the Ravens practice squad because he kept getting in trouble, so they signed him, and, yeah, he's only played for the Raiders so far.
I mean, it's easy to look at the negatives on a fucking GM, but a lot of your roster is fucking,
You got Max Crosby, GM. 4th round, so.
Yeah. You point out the first rounders, but if you look at the later round fucking talent they got.
Well, we had quite a few steals in the 4th through 7th round, but I mean, your surefire hits are 1st through 3rd, and that's the rounds that they struggled the most with.
Not true. Look at the top talent in the NFL right now.
Well,
how many of them were actual first rounders?
Yeah, but your percentage of hitting in the 1st or 2nd or 3rd round is much higher
in theory.
Well, even if it's not high, it's much higher than 4th through 7th.
Aaron Rodgers would argue the opposite point on that.
What's that?
He said that talent comes at the later rounds.
I think that's where you flex your scouting department is in the later rounds.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the rumors were that John Gruden had his own scouting team and Mike Mayock had his own scouting team on separate levels of the building, and essentially Gruden got final say. So even if, Mayock was saying, no, don't draft that guy, it was still Gruden's call. So,
well, Chucky Jr., Mark Davis, I think made a very piss poor decision in cutting ties with.
It definitely looks that way. And, like I said, almost to a man, the guys all liked Bisaccia and all were pounding the table for him to come back. So
how much of a contract did you give McDaniels?
4 years for him and Ziegler. So it's very unlikely. I mean, I guess if we end the season with the 2 wins we have now, there's a good chance McDaniels gets fired, but I think they'll probably still win, 4 to 6 games, somewhere in that range with what's left on the schedule.
Well, you had mentioned in your notes, it doesn't really seem like they're waving the white flag on the season. Does it feel like they're punting on the season to you as a fan?
It definitely seems that the narrative has shifted.
I thought they were going to be fucking fire this year, man. I thought.
Oh, God, yeah, me too. I thought the offense was going to be so good it could keep us in every single game, and then the defense was going to be good enough that we can win.
I thought, they were going to do a callback to 2001, 100% is what it felt like.
Yeah, I mean, getting Devontae Adams, and then, the return of Renfrow, Waller, Jacobs, and then,
You guys have a stud in the backfield. What's his name? Jacobs, right?
Yeah, Jacobs. And then we added some pieces. I mean, what we all said at the beginning of the season was the Achilles heel is going to be the offensive line because they didn't address it. And sure enough, that's come to essentially derail the offense. And then the defense has been, you added Chandler Jones for $16 million a year, and he has half a sack through 9 games. So
meanwhile,
hasn't worked well.
Hasn't worked at all.
Yeah.
Who's the Denver Broncos linebacker that's playing for Buffalo right now? What's his name?
Von Miller.
Von Miller goes to Buffalo and gets a sack every game. That's what you want when you're paying that kind of money.
If he's not getting a sack, he's getting a key run stop in the backfield or something like that. I mean, it's almost crazy how well he does on those 3rd downs or the short to go situations, even though he's not a big guy. He's just crafty. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he makes plays.
He's well studied. He studies film, and it shows.
It's crazy.
But if you're going to pay a guy $16 million and he's going to get you half a sack, that's a bust of a fucking pickup.
Yeah.
Right there.
I mean, it seems like you could almost even luck into half a sack just by pushing an offensive lineman backwards into the quarterback. So
I don't know about that.
Well,
quarterbacks are so well protected nowadays.
Some of the offensive linemen he's gone up against are
he's not getting doubled every play, is what you're saying.
No. Max Crosby's taking double teams every single play and still getting to the quarterback way more than he is. So
what a stud he is.
Yeah, he's been a steal. And I guess my point on them kind of flipping the switch on this season,
injuries
up until the Jacksonville Jaguars game, they were still talking about this is coming from the GM, this is coming from the coach, this is coming from all the players. They're still saying we still have everything out in front of us. Everything's out in front of us. We still can. Obviously, it's not the start you want to go to. We can still go on a run. We can still make the playoffs. Well, after they lost to the Jaguars, the GM essentially said, we'd like to say that, there's still a lot of the season left, but can't really say that at this point. We're almost halfway through, and record's not where we want it to be.
Honestly, can you guys even still make the playoffs? Because there's 9 games left in the season, right?
Yeah.
Or no?
I mean, obviously, if you win out, you end up with 11 wins, and that's probably going to get you a playoff spot. But I don't think we're going to beat the Chiefs the way that we're playing. No. We still have them left on the schedule. Still got the Chargers left on the schedule. Broncos one more time.
Honestly, I'd be surprised if you can beat the Let's Ride fucking Broncos, I did 4 hours of warm-ups on an airplane to fucking London, and they're probably going to lose to that team.
I sure hope not. I mean, that's essentially our Super Bowl at this point, so I really hope the guys stand up for that game and win. I mean, we beat them pretty handily in the first matchup, so.
How much of the blame are you putting on Carr?
You know how I've been with Carr. I mean,
that's why I ask, yeah.
I've been a big fan of his just because I remember what it was like pre-Carr. I mean, we had Jamarcus, Walter. I mean, we had a revolving door of quarterbacks between Gannon and Carr. So I know anything we run out there could probably be a lot worse than Carr. However, I think at this point, it's probably time to move on. I mean, we have an out in his contract after this season where we can either trade him, cut him. It's got to be by
any cap hit either. It's a free cut, isn't it?
I think it's like $5 million or something. It's
That's
super
a free
small.
cut nowadays. Yeah.
So I don't see them cutting him. What I do see happening is probably offering him up as trade bait, and he has the power where essentially he said, "I don't want to play anywhere else." So I mean, at the end of the day, he could retire if he doesn't want to be traded. But I do think it is time.
On their roster.
That's the thing. They have Jarrett Stidham on the roster, which is essentially a backup. I have no thoughts at all that he's going to be the long-term replacement at quarterback. But I also think that he could have taken us to a 2-6 start. So I don't think we're,
that's not a high bar to jump over.
No, but when you're eating up, $35 million of the salary cap, that limits what we can do to fill out the rest of the roster. So
$240 million salary cap next year, though.
That's my point is, could we do better with Carr on the team? Absolutely. Could we do worse with him with him off the roster? Sure. But 2-6 is 2-6. I mean, 2-6 with him, 2-6 without him, not a big difference to me. Plus, if you take that $30 million that we'll save by getting rid of him next year, and you put that into the defense, maybe we don't have a 27th ranked defense. And
fair point.
It's looking like we're probably going to have a top 5 draft pick. So maybe you get the quarterback of the future there.
Who's coming up in the draft that you'd even be interested in this year?
Well, if anything, Bryce Young is probably going to go 1 overall. He's the skinny quarterback from Alabama that I would not touch with a 5-foot pole because I think he's going to be very injury prone. Haven't seen any Alabama quarterbacks have much success in the NFL.
Mac Jones had success last year, arguably.
Well, yeah, but
he looks like dog shit this year. Yeah.
Well, it's tough to fault him there too because I mean he essentially went from one of the best offensive coordinators in the league to a defensive coordinator and a special teams coordinator calling plays for him. So tough to fault him. But no, I don't think I mean he's undersized. He's like 5'9", and then he's like 175 pounds. So one hit from an NFL lineman, he's probably going to be hurt.
So you're going to pass on Drew Brees? Is that what you're going to do?
Yeah. Well, Raiders already did that once, but
Yeah, I know that. Literally.
So then there's C.J. Stroud from Ohio State. There's that Hooker kid from Tennessee. I don't know if he's going to come out or not. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I said, it's not that I think there's a better solution out there at the quarterback position for the Raiders, but I think
the devil you know, buddy. The devil you know.
I think the team building aspect, and then hey, maybe you strike gold and you got someone for the next 10 years.
That's a big risk, because do you really want to go through another Jamarcus Russell first overall pick again? Do you really want that heartbreak over and over, season after season again?
I mean, we're getting it anyway with Carr, so may as well get it.
I disagree. I think, I don't fault Carr, because you know me, I'm a Carr fanboy. I think you're too hard on him. I genuinely think he's a talented quarterback. I think he has the ability to win. I think to bail on him when it's so very obviously the coaching and the defensive shortfalls that are holding you back. The offense doesn't look bad. What was it? Last week he chucked it up to Adams twice for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Both decent fucking passes.
Guess what he did in the second half of that game?
2 interceptions or 3, wasn't it?
5 completions, 36 yards.
How many picks did he have?
None.
So
they only had one turnover in the game, but it was that last second play where they were lateraling and fumbled, the Jags recovered it. But no. And
what do you think of the Jags? Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be a generational talent. He's been watched since he was fucking 14 years old.
I think they're making strides. They found their answer in ETN. I think Lawrence needs to be more careful with the football, and I think he's learning that with Doug Peterson. I think you need at least one more year to evaluate and put some more talent around him.
I would give him 4 more years. I think, because look at Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was the worst quarterback his rookie season.
Yep. Well, and essentially that rookie year was lost by having Urban Meyer.
You had a coach that's literally fucking going out bar hopping instead of flying home with the team. Like, you can't count that as a season.
Well, and like I said, Doug Peterson, quarterback whisperer. So he
really is.
I think he's going to do really well for him. He just needs to learn to protect the football and tuck it away when that throw's not there. So I think one more season under Doug Peterson, you're going to see what he really is at quarterback. And then obviously they made that trade for Calvin Ridley. That's a number 1 receiver right there. So
yeah, you gave him a weapon, a big weapon.
I guess my counterpoint against Carr is you saw Mac Jones pick up Josh McDaniels' offense in his first season as a rookie quarterback. Mm-hmm. And Carr has been through, 6 offensive coordinators or whatever it is in his 9 years with the Raiders. And it doesn't seem like he can pick up an offense. And that's the point where it's like,
so hard on that kid, dude. You're so hard on him.
No, I'm not. I've been a huge Carr fan. I just think the proof's in the pudding, man. I mean, how many other quarterbacks have picked up a new offense and taken it right away?
How many offenses outside of the Patriots has McDaniels successfully instilled his fucking playbook into?
Well,
none.
But if he can, did you see the players that Mac Jones had to play with last year?
Yeah.
There's no Devontae Adams there. There's no Josh Jacobs there.
But how much NFL film? How much NFL film did they have on him? Mac Jones had at least 4 games where he benefited from the fact that they couldn't properly scout it.
Okay.
So he was properly scouted half the season, and for half the season he wasn't, I don't know. I blame McDaniels. I don't blame Carr, but I'm also a Carr fanboy 100%, so that's on me.
Well, and I sure McDaniels has fault in it. I mean, he's proven he's not a great coach. And maybe it's the aspects of running the team day to day that's taking away from him being the offensive coordinator that he should be.
100%.
I don't know. I mean, the problem is you can't, hire another coach and then say, Josh, you're going to be our offensive coordinator, because that's not
good
how
luck
that
with
works.
That. Yeah, good luck with that.
I mean, especially when what's his name? Belichick is just keeping his seat warm for him when he screws it up.
He didn't even bother hiring an OC. He knew.
Embarrassing. Yeah.
He knew.
Yeah.
Well, bud, go enjoy your head coaching stint. We'll see you in a year.
Yeah, make the money while you can. We'll have your spot warm for you when you get back.
And he'll go back and they'll win another Super Bowl, guaranteed.
Yeah, it's crazy, but no,
one last topic to touch on before we close out here is Aaron Rodgers, Packers, Pittsburgh Steelers, and what's their young kid's name? It's the first time in NFL history that both those teams are going into home games as underdogs. What's going on with the staples of the league?
The Steelers was kind of predictable. I know Kyle was on the hype train. I think I had them at like 9-8. I didn't have them making the playoffs, so they're obviously well behind what I thought they would be. They've also been missing T.J. Watt for the Steelers.
Yeah,
I thought that Mitch Trubisky was going to, just based off the film he put out there from last year on the Bills, I thought he was going to have a decent start to the season and keep them around 500, and then they would make the move to Pickett towards the end of the season once they, didn't think the playoffs were a good hope for them.
His seat was on fire after week 1, which was just sad.
But it's just crazy. I mean, the offensive coordinator on that team, Matt Canada, has not put a competitive offense on the field in his 2 seasons. I think he's been calling the offense for them. Najee Harris has taken a huge step back this season. Last year, he was one of the best running backs in the league, and this year, I think he's got the worst average per carry. So there's a lot of regression on that offensive side of the football. Defense looks just as good as it always has been. You got, Minka Fitzpatrick, you got TJ Watt, you've got, what's the guy in the middle? Cam Hayward. You got talent at every position on that defensive side of the football, but the offense has been so far behind. And honestly, I would be surprised. I know Tomlin is very, very loyal to his guys.
He's a player's coach all day.
But I would be shocked if Canada doesn't get the axe by the end of the season, and that's their offensive coordinator. So if they can fix the offensive side of football, and Kenny Pickett's shown flashes. I mean, he has legs. He makes good throws. He also makes a lot of boneheaded throws. But if he can clean up the turnovers, they can get a system that actually fits his talents. They'll quit hemorrhaging wide receivers and hopefully turn the page. Obviously, I'm not a huge Steelers fan because they have 6 Super Bowl rings. So my Raiders only have 3, and they were huge rivals back in the 70s and 80s. So, but I do like them because obviously Kyle is my good friend. So I at least kind of cheer for them on the side.
It's still Carolina and the Raiders for you through and through, though, guaranteed all day.
Yeah, I'm always cheering for the Panthers for sure. And like I said, towards the beginning of the season, they weren't fun to watch, but they're definitely getting that way now. So,
what about Aaron Rodgers? What's going on with the Packers, in your opinion?
I really just think they've let a lot of talent go.
Oh God, yeah, and they have not replaced any of it.
I always screw this guy's name up. Is it Bakhtiari?
Bakhtiari.
Yeah. He's been struggling with injuries for the last 2 seasons. He doesn't look like himself this year.
His career's over.
Both of those running backs that are, some of the best in the league, they haven't
get touches.
Burn. Yeah.
What the fuck's up with that? Like, how do you not give a guy that's averaging 6 yards a fucking play the ball more than 12 times?
It makes no sense to me, and that's why I don't think Matt LaFleur is under a lot of pressure, but it seems like his seat is definitely warming up because he and Rodgers have kind of, I know it publicly, Rodgers won't admit to it, but it seems like they've butt heads basically since he got there.
Well, all season, Rodgers has been saying, we make too many little fucking mistakes.
Yep.
We make too many little fucking mistakes that are costing us games. That's your head coach. That's not critiquing the rookies. That's critiquing
he's called
the
out
guys
the rookies too, but
but at the same time, that's literally saying to your coach these motherfuckers up.
Yeah. It's
Do your job.
Everyone's saying, this is father time catching up, and I don't see that. I mean, he still can make every throw in the book.
Absolutely.
So I feel like it's just
you don't
losing
get back-to-back
Adams.
MVP without having the talent still there.
Yeah.
And Devontae Adams, huge loss.
Yeah, I mean, Devontae Adams, he was not going to make mistakes. So Aaron Rodgers always had him to fall back on. So replacing him with essentially two rookies, not making a big splash. I know they brought Randall Cobb back, but he's been
Randall
hurt.
Cobb's had a good season.
Yeah, he's
and
been hurt.
So has there's another guy that they brought back, Lazard.
Yeah, Lazard's had a pretty good season. Tunyon, he's coming off ACL last year, I think. I can't remember what it was. I think it was an ACL. So he's probably not up to full speed, but he's a great pass catching and blocking tight end. So they have some weapons, but I think wide receivers hurting them really bad. And then all the little mistakes where Rodgers doesn't have anyone that he can rely on, and then the question marks of not giving your two-headed monster in the backfield the ball is
that's
quite
mind-boggling to me. Because they blame it on being behind. I'm sorry, if you're 7 points down, you're not behind.
Yeah.
They just had an offensive drive, and you didn't.
And that's
like hammer the fucking rock until you're 14 down.
That's exactly what Josh McDaniels does too. I mean, if they get down by 3 points, he's like, okay, now we got to start throwing the football every time. It's like, no,
Makes no
Josh
sense.
Jacobs will get you yards. Take a little time off the clock. Go get the lead back. It's
hard
have
not
to just throw the ball.
Vrabel, because Vrabel doesn't give a fuck, man.
Dude, Vrabel is, I think he's coach of the year this year. I mean, Dabble, obviously, he's in the conversation taking that Giants team. He got the coach. What's the New York Jets coach? What the hell's his name?
Oh,
coordinator from San Francisco 2 years ago.
Shanahan, or not Shanahan.
Why am I?
You're gonna blank on it. It'll come to you at 3 a.m. Just continue what you were saying, though.
But anyway,
New York Giants coach is up for it. The Jets coach is up for it.
Yeah, and
the Eagles coach is probably up for it.
Yep, Sirianni with the Eagles. You've got quite a few guys that stand out, but to me, the job that Vrabel has done with the quarterback situation that he has, losing A.J. Brown, defense has been pretty banged up. They lost, now I forget his name too. They lost their star linebacker right at the beginning of the season. Lost him for the whole season. So yeah, Vrabel is, I think as long as Vrabel is coaching the Titans, they're going to have a chance to win because he loves his guys love him, they believe in him, they know he's played in the league, and he's kind of like Bill Belichick in terms of attention to detail. He will hold you accountable for knowing the offensive plays, the defensive plays, situational, and he calls you out in the middle of meetings. So if you don't have the answer, you're not going to be happy at the end of that meeting. So every one of his guys knows football. So that puts you in a good situation to win.
That's culture, baby.
So Vrabel, he's a stud. And
his commitment to his game plan too is admirable.
Well, I mean, he's overcoming Todd Downing at offensive coordinator. I don't know if you remember Todd Downing with the Raiders. So
give me years.
2016, that was the year that we went to the playoffs, and Derek Carr broke his leg right before the playoff game against Houston.
Okay. Yep.
So after that game, Jack Del Rio fired his offensive coordinator, even though they had a top 5, top 10 offense, and hired Todd Downing, which was the tight ends coach at the time. And he took that high-flying offense and turned us into a bottom 20 team in offense. Or I guess, we were.
You got to respect the Raiders' commitment to just shooting himself right in the fucking foot, dude.
Yeah. Well, I think this year we're trying to shoot ourselves in the foot, but we would miss. So,
it's hard to miss when you're 2-7.
Yeah. But anyway, I guess I didn't mention with the Raiders, Waller, Renfrow both got put on the IR. Waller, I feel like this is weeks too late. They kept trying to get him out and ready for the games, and he kept tweaking that hamstring. Now he's probably lost for the season, which is kind of why I said maybe they're starting to wave the white flag on top of the messages that are getting put out by the team. And then Renfrow also got put on the IR.
What happened to Renfrow?
He has an oblique injury he's been playing through. So he hasn't been super effective. I think it happened on that same play. He got concussed in the Atlanta game. He kind of got tweaked, and it looked like his his top half went one way and his bottom half went the other, and it kind of looked like that might have been the play where he tweaked his oblique.
But he's magicians, when they cut themselves in half, that's just
exactly.
an illusion.
Yep. So yeah, I think if they were in the thick of things, he for sure would just keep playing through it. But where it's like we're 2-6 at this point, no shot at the playoffs.
You're putting a guy that's hurt on IR because your season's over.
Well, and you've already extended him, so you don't want him to be hurt for next season too.
Well,
if he tries to play through it.
The old saying, "Are you hurt or are you injured?"
Yeah.
If their season was competitive, he would still be playing
for sure. And then you had Blake Martinez, which we picked up from the Giants. He was on the Giants with Patrick Graham, our defensive coordinator last year. Picked him up now that he's healthy. He played 2 games, and then he was like, "I'm out." he went ahead and surprise retired. No one was expecting it, but
that's the second one of the season for you guys, right? The surprise retiring. Didn't somebody retire fucking training camp from your team?
Oh yeah, Denzel Good. He did. You're right. Denzel Good. It was more him overcoming an injury. He might play again, but he was having a hard time getting over that injury for last year and wasn't performing well. So I think he's probably going to take the year off and then maybe he'll unretire. But yeah, Blake Martinez, he's a new dad, has his own business. So I think when he saw where the season was headed, he was just like, "All right, peace out.
I don't need to do this shit." Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to put your body on the line when you don't have to. So, and then they did make a move to sign Sidney Jones, which he was drafted by Seattle, played some really good cornerback there, but has constantly struggled with injuries. So we'll see what we get out of him. I mean, we need probably 2 more cornerbacks right now. So, I don't know. Maybe he'll contribute. But like I said, at this point in the season, we're kind of looking at draft picks rather than where we.
You're at the point where winning games is going to be a little more frustrating than losing them.
Well, I'm always cheering for them to win, but yeah, for draft picks, obviously, it makes more sense to lose. So
I don't want to go through another 11 years of the Raiders constantly being in the top 5, though. I just don't want to see that happen.
No, we've burned through enough first-round picks that have not worked out. So hopefully, I don't know. I really think if things continue the way that they are, Mark is probably going to have some heads rolling by the end of the season. So I think the first one to go, and I don't really think it's his fault, but Patrick Graham, our defensive coordinator, the defense has been awful. I don't think he has the talent on the roster to actually play against these teams that they're facing, but he's going to be the scapegoat for that because how bad the defense has been. I also
took the name of DC. I mean, that comes from the territory.
Yeah, so like I said, I don't think it's fair, but I think he's probably going to be a scapegoat if Mark Davis wants someone fired because he's in charge of that 27th ranked defense. So,
can you imagine how that firing goes? Just, work with me here. You walk into the man's office and he takes off his little backpack. He pulls out his crayons and he starts, "I'm sorry, sir."
How dare you? How dare you,
gets done firing and he just pulls out a little PB&J and he's fucking needs a little snack after such a hard day's work.
You mean P.F. Chang, not PB&J.
You're like getting fired by a 4-year-old, You just fucking...
The tough thing is, like, PG he's been good everywhere else he's been. So, like, I understand, you take over defensive coordinator on a already bad defense.
It's culture. What is your defense? What is your defense's identity right now? Are they ball hawks? Are they fucking? No. Are they rushing the quarterback? Are they going to put pressure on you? Are they run fucking stuffers? Like, they don't have an identity.
They don't have anything. I mean, they have Max Crosby and they
have talent.
Well, I would argue they don't have much. I mean,
I disagree.
Chandler Jones has
there
been
is not an NFL player.
All season.
There is not an NFL player in existence that's bad.
Okay, they're not as good as anyone else on the field. How's that?
Jesus Christ, you can't have an entire defense of Ed Reeds and fucking Ray Lewis's, dude.
Obviously,
you just can't.
But if you have one of those guys, do you know how much that elevates your entire defense?
God, having both. Can you imagine?
Yeah. I mean, those guys were, they knew where to be at every single point of the game. So even if it wasn't them making plays, they had guys lined up correctly, identifying plays before they even happened.
Oh, fuck yeah.
But
you had two coaches on your fucking defense. But that's the thing is the odds of that happening are so low.
yeah,
You got to build a culture with the players you got. And the fact of the matter is the Raiders, their culture is the kid in the corner forgotten about. Like, they don't have an identity.
yeah. I mean, we have right now,
talent.
we have Duron Harmon, which is, a journeyman safety. We have Trevin Merrick, that's a second-year safety. So both of those guys are not exactly playmakers. And then at cornerback, you've got Averett, and he's getting burned on every single play. He plays 10 yards off the line, even if they need a yard, just so he doesn't get burnt over the top. You got Rock Yassin, that's, he's been pretty good this season. He's making strides. Nate Hobbs he was locking guys down, but he broke his hand and has been out the last 3 games. So I don't know. I mean, Denzel Perryman, he was a stud last year in Gus Bradley's defense and looks lost in this one. We just cut Jonathan Abram because he couldn't cover anything. I mean, it's like we have Max Crosby. Chandler Jones, I feel like his best days are behind him, but he should still be making plays. But we got nothing up the middle. So these quarterbacks have all day if Max Crosby isn't the one generating pressure. And if you're sending extra men, that means you have less in coverage. So it's kind of like yeah. I mean, it's like you're grabbing a sword by the blade instead of the handle. So
hey, you might still get a kill. You're just going to lose a couple fingers,
Yeah. So I don't know.
You're right. I mean,
it's been super frustrating this year because, like I said, I thought defense
we all thought they were going to be in games because of that offense.
Yes, and all I said is defense doesn't have to be good; just has to be middle of the pack, and it's been towards the bottom. So,
hey, they're not towards the bottom; they're 27th. That's like 5 spots away from the bottom, Bill.
Exactly. All right. Was there anything else you want to talk about? I just wanted to say quickly about my Warriors. They have a 2-game winning streak after that horrible
2 wins. Did you just say winning streak with 2 wins?
2 games.
Oh my god!
You win multiple, it's called a winning streak.
You take 2 steps, is that fucking running a marathon? Like, Jesus Christ, calling that a streak. You might as well fucking... They won a game, they're on a win streak.
If you saw the previous 5 games, you'd call it a win streak too.
I tell you, I probably wouldn't because it's basketball, and basketball sucks.
Yeah. It's taken historic performances from Steph Curry just to win those 2 games, but,
Okay. You could celebrate it a little bit if they've had a rough go. I'll give you that. But you can't call it a fucking streak, Bill.
Okay, we'll save it for 3 in a row then.
Yeah, at 3, call it a streak. That's a streak.
Okay, fair enough. But anything else you wanted to bring up while we were...
No, I'm really glad I got to bust your balls real hard right at the end there, though. I'm pretty happy about that.
It's fine.
So
you do
Warriors
it off the air
1-2. And who won the pennant as a guy that doesn't follow baseball?
The Astros, which...
Boo.
Yeah.
I could have asked you that off air, but we don't need... Yeah, I'm good.
But I will say I am happy for Dusty Baker, but he is... Well, Dusty Baker and Trey Mancini, those are the only 2 I'm excited for, and the rest of them...
Is Dusty Baker the one that gets to bang that blonde model with the huge tits?
That's Justin Verlander.
Oh, that's Verlander that's got her? Okay.
But no, Dusty Baker's the coach. He's been managing for 25 years, and this is the first time he won the World Series, even though he's been close several times. So happy for him.
Happy for him.
Yep.
All right,
buddy. We'll catch you next time. I'm happy it came on, and hopefully all of our listeners got to get a little peek into the comedy that is Loag.
Truly appreciate the opportunity to come on again, Bill. I have a good time with this. I truly do. This is a nice little way to spend an hour. And to your listeners, adios. See you next time.
Thanks, guys. Catch you next time.